Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, we're right here back live on Facebook Live. So make sure you sit there, make sure, it's kind of funny that we were sitting there doing YouTube for a little bit, and now we're back on Facebook. Of course, I'm Ray. This is the Happy Hour podcast, and Psycrotes is here with me. Back again. It's been a couple of weeks since Psycrotes has been with us. And
you know what the good thing about Facebook Live is?
What's that?
It's live.
Yeah, no shit. I would have never have thought that Facebook Live would be live. And I don't know if anybody else is noticing it, but we're kind of having a little bit of a lag on the video, which is
lagging like a
and of course
we choose truth over facts.
And of course we're right here. This is the Happy Hour podcast. This is our pregame episode, and of course Psycrotes, what we're going to let Psycrotes do is, of course, we have him do it every single week. Is Psycrotes is going to start off with one of his very many poems. So we're going to start off with Psycrotes' poem. So Psycrotes, if you want, go ahead and let one of your poems rip, my dude.
Well, I mean, why not two?
Go ahead, do two.
We can do a fun one and a more serious one. Okay. Before I get to the poetry, High Priest Poetry Hour, there was an eternal question that was just answered right before the show started.
What's that?
You had to eject your dogs from the room before we started. So we finally figured out the answer to the 20-plus-year-old question, who let the dogs out? It was Chase Rollins this whole time. It was me. Okay, anyway. High Priest Poetry Hour. Let's see, which one do I want to start with?
It's not the High Priest Poetry Hour. Right. I would hope that it would not go on for a whole entire hour.
I can if you need me to. I mean, we can do an Iron Man session, but let's see. Let's do the more fun one first. Why not start? Because this is a fun show. We started up tempo note, and this one goes out to all the ladies.
Oh,
it's called "These Hoes Ain't Shit."
So, ladies and gentlemen, right here on Facebook Live, and for everybody that's going to be watching this on YouTube tomorrow, this is Psycrotes with "These Hoes Ain't Shit."
I love all my little thoughts out there. Okay. He sent her a Valentine's Day card in the mail, but then she hooked up with some thug who just got out of jail. He brought flowers and took her to dinner, but then she got fucked by some Chad off of Tinder.
Oh.
Now he's fucking a sex doll with big old tits. It's all because these hoes ain't shit.
Now that Chad that you're talking about, that wouldn't happen to be Chad Austin, would it?
As far as I know, but Chad is a pretty suave kind of guy, so it could be. You never know.
Yeah. So, and you said that you have two order for us.
I'll do two. Why not? Because I'm, if there's one thing that I'm about, it's about giving the people, what they want, giving the people bang for their buck, right?
Okay.
So that was a newer one. Let's do a little bit older one, a little darker one. Okay. This one's called Cursed.
This one's called Psycrotes Ain't Shit.
Dare you. And I want to dedicate that last one to a certain young lady out there. I'm not going to name names.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not going to name names.
I don't.
Far be it from me to ever name names. Okay. This one's called. I'm going to go through the Rolodex. Which one I want to do? This one's called The Curse of 81.
The Curse of 81. Okay.
81. I cannot speak his name, and if I did, you wouldn't believe me anyway. Haunted by a nightmare, abstract and esoteric. He's the shadowy figure who writes my name in the sand and quickly moves away. He brings cancer to mothers and dementia to fathers. He brings addiction to friends and suicide to brothers. He is I, and I am him. He shows me a panorama stretched out before my eyes. Every tragedy in the history of man stretches out before my eyes. Because he is I, and I am him. For into the darkness I was born, and so shall I die.
So I'm guessing what this happened to be about, and I know I know how greatly you speak of this person and how much you love them. Would this happen to be about the one, the only Butch Hess? I'm sure that, shout out to Butch, because I mean, the whole thing is, I know how much you love that guy.
He's my favorite worker. I like Sabu. Come on. An artist doesn't name his art, so it's like a good song. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Okay. That's fair enough. So therefore, that's your Psycrotes poetry hour in just 5 minutes, right here on the Happy Hour.
I mean, if we're starving for time, I appreciate go.
But what we're gonna do is
I'll do one more. Fuck it.
Okay.
We gotta do a trifecta. Every great trilogy has to have 3. That's why it's a trilogy.
But I mean, really, every great poet also needs to recite his poetry. I don't know if anybody's ever said that. That's something I just kind of caught on the fly.
That last one, I don't know if you noticed, but it was kind of influenced by another poet from Baltimore, Mr. Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, okay.
That was
okay. Shout out to Edgar Allan Poe. I know he probably doesn't hear right now. Yeah, he's been dead for 160 years, but also shout out to Pentatonics. We went and saw them a couple weeks ago. Me and my wife, we enjoyed the show. However, stop doing the check vaccination status stuff, because we stood outside in the cold for an hour and you didn't even check our vaccination status after standing outside for an hour, you bastards. But no, amazing show. Make sure you go check out their tour. They opened right here in Baltimore. So onward with the poems, Psycrotes.
Like I said, every great trilogy has to have 3. Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name, 3 movies. Okay. Metallica, Unforgiven 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
What else do we got? I don't want to name the Psycrotes Butch Hess trilogy. There was actually more than 3. I'm still trying to forget them. There was actually quite a lot more than 3.
Yeah.
And I'm still scarred by every single one of them. But we'll do one more. Let's do one more. This one's called I Want to Write Her Name in the Dirt. All right. Now I just have a general feeling. I have a general feeling that this may very well be about the same person that you said that it was about last time, but it's about this person also this time. I could be wrong. I want to write her name on a blade and rip it through my veins.
Oh no.
I want to write her name on a bullet and blow it through my brain. I want to write her name on a cyanide capsule and feed it to every girl. I want to write her name on a nuclear bomb and wipe out the whole fucking world. Then I'll rise again after all the empires have fell, just to crawl through the ashes and write her name in the fires of hell.
I can only imagine, like, Facebook Live has captioning, so I can only imagine people who are catching this right now with the captioning. Like,
it's gonna be like when WCW Saturday Night when Dusty Rhodes was commentating.
Yeah,
and you just look at the
baby, yeah.
It would just be random letters. You would have no idea what
It was like, wait a minute, what's happening? Like, that's always the best when you look at closed captioning.
If we look back at closed caption now, though, we'll know if they know how to spell esoteric, because that was in the last one.
Esoteric.
Word. So, word of the day. That's our word of the day.
Yes. And speaking of the word of the day, what we're going to get into is our Urban Dictionary term of the night. So our Urban Dictionary term of the night, which I just literally went to Urban Dictionary and hit random, and that's the first thing that popped up, is Burger King foot lettuce.
Wait,
so
what?
Burger King foot lettuce. Yes. So our Urban Dictionary term of the day is Burger King foot lettuce. And what Burger King foot lettuce is, it's a meme about a video in which a nasally narrator talks about a scandal in which a Burger King employee was seen with his feet in the lettuce. November 14th, Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus. But as it turns out, that might be what you get. A 4channer uploaded a video anonymously to a site showcasing his feet in a plastic bin of lettuce.
Wow. With
the statement, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." Admittedly, he had his shoes on. But that's even worse.
That's even worse.
Yeah. Hold on. This is the whole definition.
This is a long
the post went live at 11:30 p.m. July 16th. And a mere 20 minutes later, the Burger King in question was alerted to the rogue employee. At last, I hope he's rogue. How did it happen? Well, the BK employee hadn't removed his EXIF data from the uploaded photo, which suggested the culprit was somewhere in Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Dun, dun, dun.
So it wasn't a Florida man, it was an Ohio
Yeah,
man.
yeah. This was at 11:47. 3 minutes later, at 11:50, the Burger King branch address was posted with wishes of happy unemployment. 5 minutes later, the news station was contacted by another 4chaner, and 3 minutes later, at 11:58, this is so much. A link was posted. BK's Tell Us About It online forum. The foot photo, otherwise known as Exhibit A, was attached. Cleveland Scene magazine contacted the BK in question the next day. When questioned, the breakfast shift manager said, "Oh, I know who that is. He's getting fired. Mystery solved. By 4chan. Now we can all go back to eating our fast food in peace."
It's like a fucking Zapruder film. There's a lot of detail.
Yeah, there was an
now,
extreme.
what if you got a foot fetish show? You might want some
I don't
BK
know.
foot lettuce
Yeah,
if you got a foot fetish.
I
I don't have a foot fetish myself.
That was probably
I've got more of an ass fetish.
the absolute longest fucking Urban Dictionary definition I've ever seen.
If you ever want to know about Burger King foot lettuce, now you know. You know everything you ever needed to know.
And of course, shout out to Tom Nutty, our good friend Tom Nutty, who always comes in whenever we are on Facebook Live. A good old fuck Tom Nutty for Tom going on there. And one thing that I do want to talk about is I meant to bring this up on a previous episode, is that I stopped at the White Marsh Mall not too long ago, and I don't go in there often. I ran in there just to use the bathroom. So I run in to use the bathroom, and there's this older gentleman standing next to me at the urinal. And, I just walk up, mind my business. I have my head down, whatever. He's doing his thing. You hear him, taking his pee. And then, right as he gets done, right before he flushes the toilet, he looks down at his penis, and he just goes, and then he flushes the toilet and walks away.
Nice.
And he did it, and it kind of startled me. I kind of almost pissed on myself because I wasn't expecting it. And I was just part of me thought, well, maybe this guy has something wrong with him. Maybe this is a ritual he's done since he was a child. Maybe he's trying to possess me through the hole in my penis. I don't know. And then I just kind of looked around after that. It was kind of awkward, and I was just kind of do I have to do it now? Because there was a guy next to me. So, it was him. It was me in the middle. I was literally the dick, the dick in the middle of the sandwich. So, it's the kind of thing that's me there. And then it's that guy. So it's that guy finishes. He's like, and then flushes the toilet. And I'm just sitting there still peeing because I'm emptying my 5-year-old child bladder. And it's just kind of and I just sit there and I look around. And I just kind of look over at the other guy, did we just really witness that? And that guy's just looking at the wall, just peeing. Just he's just no-selling me. I'm now this dude's going to think that I want to fuck him. That's what's going to happen. And so I sat there and I didn't do it, but I feel like
you kind of have to.
I feel like that I had to. It's almost like on Christmas, if you go and you pay a toll, but you pay a toll not only for yourself, but the person behind you, and it keeps on going back in a line.
Now, was there any context to this? Did he look at you? Or
no.
Look at his penis?
No. He literally was looking down at his penis the whole time. I looked at him at one point when I was peeing, but he's looking down at his penis the whole time. And then when he gets done, right before he shakes, he literally goes, and then just flush. I'm what the, literally, I'm sitting there peeing. I'm just kind of what the fuck is that? He turns around, washes his hand, and he leaves. And I'm well, if I do this now, if I do it, this guy next to me has to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not leaving the bathroom until he fucking does it. If not, I'm gonna have to just bang his head off the fucking urinal, because at that point, I've been fooled by this probably mildly, autistic old 70-year-old guy, and I've been fooled. So it's the kind of thing that but I also thought that I'm if I go and then the guy next to me goes, maybe the person waiting will see that, and every person for the rest of that day, right before they flush the toilet, will just shake their dingling and be
audition at White Marsh Mall. It'd be tremendous though if just randomly blood walked in. And he took a piss, and then when blood got done, he just went,
Yeah. And of course, one thing I do love about Facebook Live is our chat is a lot more active here on Facebook Live. Our buddy Tom Nutty, he said, I'm recovering from bacon and beer. It turned into foot fetish shit. And of course, shout out to Justin Schlegel. He was right here on our show not too long ago. 98 Rock did their bacon and beer holiday edition today at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Shout out. That's where our anniversary episode was. So, and then Tom Nutty was like, that was a solid gobble when I went. So
it was a solid gobble. I'll give you like a 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, and he said, to be fair, you're the meat of the sandwich. And he said, eye contact, penis contact, gobble, flush. That's how I always miss. That's great. That should be a t-shirt. We need it as a t-shirt.
Maybe the guy is schizophrenic and he thinks his penis is a turkey.
That could be it.
Yeah,
it could be an old school case of turkey penis. That's it. Like
if you look at a turkey's face, right? He's got the gizzard hanging. It does kind of look like a pair of nuts.
Well, here's the thing though. Like this dude's like in his 70s. So maybe his balls sag so much that it looks like that little fucking gimmick that hangs off.
You're telling me you didn't check?
The bottom of the turkey. No, I didn't check. What do you want me to do? Cuff his balls? Like, hey, like,
Phil Anselmo could do it. He said one time, he said he was on tour with Ozzie.
Yeah.
And he went to the bathroom and Ozzie was taking a piss in the urinal. And he just walked up next to Ozzie and he said, I gotta look. It's Ozzie.
Yeah.
He's like, I looked. He's like, and I'll say it right now. Ozzie's got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the
thing. Picture this. Phil goes up to take a piss. He just looks at Ozzie. Apparently, to check out, to see what he was working with. Because everybody knows Phil's got a huge dick. That's like a fact. But apparently what Ozzie did was, as Phil told the story, Ozzie just looked at Phil and did like the Ozzie laugh and then just walked away. He looked at him and went, ha, 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 and then just walked away.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, here's the thing. Like, you go to an Ozzie show. Yeah. You go to see Ozzie. And they're like, oh, you get to meet Ozzie. And then, you're in the back. Ozzie's fucked up. He'd probably be fucked up. Odds are he's fucked up. He's probably like,
well,
I mean,
not now, but
I don't think he's going to get fucked up, go out and play and leave through the crowd. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But
like a teamsters hall, we had to go piss in the fucking walk through the crowd to take a leak.
Yeah.
I'm a superstar.
Or like Jeff Hardy recently on SmackDown.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, I had a house show. But no, but just imagine going back, Ozzie's all fucked up. And then they're like, well, we're going to give you an opportunity of a lifetime. Like Ozzie's just back there and Ozzie's just like on his hands and his knees and he's holding his ass cheeks open. Like he's just holding his ass cheeks. It's like at that point, if he's holding his ass cheeks open, and this isn't going where everybody probably thinks that it's going, like, no, we're not having sex with Ozzie. Like, that's just easy. Like walking up and just right into Ozzie. Like, that's easy. Like, I'm talking like, would you just walk up and would you like telescope his anus? Like, that's the thing. Like, you just walk up and you just put your eye on a stink hole and just you look inside of Ozzie. Like, I would imagine,
like a fucking proctologist.
Yeah, like a proctologist.
There you go.
Yeah. And while you're looking at, you're sitting there fucking telescope eyeing his asshole, but you're sitting there going like with your penis, all at the same time. So
I was actually just watching a documentary on Ozzie like last week on Real Channel. And he was talking about when he pissed on the Alamo. Have you heard that story?
Yes. And what's funny is Tom Nutty's like, what the fuck, Ray, with a crying face. And of course, as I said, we're back here on Facebook Live. We're on the metaverse. Actually, speaking of which, not to cut you off, we are freshly out of Facebook prison for airing live. And no, not because of anything we said or we did. It's because simply I put a GIF 1 year ago on somebody's comment of what the fuck, I always forget his name, the dude from fucking that played Green Goblin and Spider-Man, and James Franco, and he's standing there and he has the noose around his neck and he just goes, first time, and by God, that shit, no other outside GIF has ever worked.
For that? What is
I don't know, it was from some movie, but it's the whole time that
you can only hang yourself once.
Yeah.
Hang
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's the whole thing that a GIF would not work on Facebook if it was outside of Facebook. I never got them to work. The only GIFs that worked on Facebook were GIFs that you used on Facebook. It was a GIF on fucking Facebook. So they banned, they didn't ban. Like, I was able to post I was like, fucking joke's on you. They were like, well, and I was thinking about going to YouTube Live anyways, because of the whole thing that happened when Facebook tried to cover their tracks, when they were caught out on all the bullshit. Of course, we all know you didn't do it. But that's a story to tell on another day. You know, the lizard people cleaned that up very, 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 very quickly. So,
real quick, if I could circle back around.
Yeah.
Ozzie, he goes out, he takes the piss in the Alamo. He's wearing his wife's dress. And the big, redneck Texas cop comes and, arrests him. And he says, do you know what that, because Ozzie didn't know it was the Alamo. He just had to take a piss and there was a wall there.
Yeah.
And, the cop says to Ozzie, he says, well, how would you like it if I pissed on Buckingham Palace? And Ozzie just looks at him and Ozzie goes, well, to be honest, mate, I don't live there, so I wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah, I would imagine like it's weird. Like what if you pissed on Buckingham Palace? Meanwhile, there's a porn star named Buckingham Palace. Like that sounds like a male porn star name. Like, could you imagine that? Like, who is this? I'm Buckingham Palace.
A worker name that.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude.
Any weird name you can think of, there's probably an indie worker somewhere.
Well, see, here's the thing, and with indie shows, like everything's starting to come back. Everything's starting to go back to normal. And some of the aside from AWL, but that's almost 10 years later. It's only been a decade. Ever since then, another company started running that venue. Nobody else has ran there since.
I know, right?
But no, the whole thing is you just see so much more shitty ass indie companies that are just coming through. And, just all that bullshit. And actually, what I'm going to do real quick is we are right here on our pre-show. Steve has entered the lobby. So I'm going to go ahead and admit, Steve, we're going to get a little bit of bonus content with Steve right here on Facebook Live. And for everybody watching on YouTube or in our archives right here on www.thehhpod.com, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and admit Steve, and we're going to go ahead and start talking with Steve and, all that great stuff right here on Facebook Live. So, but no, I mean, dude, like so many different various shows. Like I've been seeing ads for so many shitty, just crappy ass shit wrestling shows.
Fair, that's really nothing new.
Yeah. I mean, dude.
Well, there's going to be more though, because I don't know. I can't really read the dirt sheets anymore. Is it true that ROH is going out of business?
Yeah. That's what I heard. Yeah. So apparently they're supposed to be like rebranding and all that. And of course, there's our special guest, Steve Hamm. Steve, how you doing, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you go. We're right here on Facebook Live. We're still doing our pre-show, so we admitted you in a little bit early. Of course, Steve Hamm, actor, helicopter pilot, lifeguard. He was in the military. You name it. This man's done it. So, I got all kinds of fun, questions. We're going to play some fun games in a little bit. Of course, we're sitting here just doing all kinds of shenanigans right here on Facebook Live. Things get wild. And of course, we were doing YouTube Live for a little bit, but we were in Facebook prison for a little bit for going live because I posted I don't know if you've ever seen the gift of James Franco when he goes first time and he has like the rope around his neck or whatever. It like you'll see it everywhere. And Facebook used to have it in their little log for gifts to choose. And I posted it like a year ago. It's like a funny thing, like, hey, blah, 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 commenting on somebody like, hey, first time, like, I'm going to hang myself, and they restricted us from going live for like 30 days. And I'm like, what? You guys had it in your gift thing. Like, what the heck? What is this? So we started doing YouTube Live. So tonight's our first night back right here on Facebook Live.
I would tell the joke that got me a temporary ban on Facebook. But it was probably just a temporary ban on Facebook.
Yeah. And of course, Steve, I noticed on Twitter, you just did stuff with Yellowstone, as Yellowstone's been huge lately. And, how was that?
Actually, I didn't do anything with Yellowstone. Okay. I actually I was in another movie with Cole Hauser, actually. He did a movie with Bruce Willis in Cleveland, or it was filmed in Cleveland. It was Acts of Violence.
Okay.
And I just had the opportunity to escort him out of a house. So.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And it took me a little bit when I started watching the series, the first episode, like, which one is he? I'm like, oh crap. Okay, now I see. And I say, I love his character. I mean, it's he is ripped. He is the role. And Beth, I mean, those two together are just a couple that need to be. They can get anything done. They're incredible together.
Yeah, and with of course you were in the military, and of course thank you for your service. My dad, you can kind of see in the corner a little bit the flag right there. That's my dad's flag. He was in he was in Vietnam. He got 3 Purple Hearts over there. So wow. I greatly appreciate the service that you've done for us. Is that where you learned how to fly a helicopter? Was in the military?
Yeah, sure was.
Okay. And was that what your main job was over there? Was the fly a helicopter, or I mean, like what exactly, what, like when you were in the military, what was your job pretty much when you were in the military?
Well, I started out as a helicopter mechanic, actually.
Okay.
And then after about 8 years, you work on them and you see the pilots fly away. They come back and they have all their great stories and stuff. And you're like, man, I want to be able to do that someday, And as you get more and more with it, you just want to be like them. And fortunately, the Army has got a program where anyone can apply to be a pilot. So as long as you pass all the prerequisites, tests, all that kind of stuff. And so I did, and I was able to get in, and yeah, the rest is history. And all my deployments were as a pilot, and it was very interesting to say the least. Wow.
How was it the first time you like sat down behind the steering wheel in the cockpit of a helicopter and you took off the first time? Like, that's got to be like a fun feeling. Like, I mean, I've just driven a car and all that, but being able to take off, especially was it a military grade helicopter that you flew for the first time? Like, just kind of flying up in one of those amazing, vehicles that they have, that they provide with you guys. Like, that's got to be something unreal doing it for the first time.
Well, actually, you train on a civilian trainer first, just to learn all your emergency procedures and stuff like that. So the hardest thing to learn actually is hovering. Once you can actually get the hover down, then everything else kind of starts working its place. But everyone's got their own, time when they get it, and they call it. You got to find your own hover button, as they call it. Yeah. And it's just a matter of calming down when you're in the aircraft. Not over controlling anything. And but if you do it day in, day out, that's when you're at the schoolhouse, that's all you do is you learn to fly. So once you get that down, then the rest of it is, it comes. But it's, even when you get out of the flight school portion, you get to your first unit, you're legally a pilot, but they still got to train you up for stuff that you really need to do. So it's just a lifelong learning process, basically. I mean, I'm still learning stuff to this day. I'm definitely not an expert by any means. So, but it's, yeah, being able to take off in a helicopter is fun. I mean, it's after a while, it's just second nature what you got to do up there, and you just rely on everything else. But the working for Life Flight is definitely puts a different spin, complexity on everything, because the flying part's a given. It's learning all the other stuff, and it's you still work. I think the reason why I chose it besides law enforcement is that you still have a teamwork type of concept and mentality working there. It's you. Or it's me, it's a flight nurse. And in my base, we fly with the flight doc, so who's in their third year of a residency. So it's a really cohesive team, and when the call comes in, you're all focused and you go out there and you do the job, and, and you come back and you kind of calm down a little bit, and if anything really serious happens, you discuss it. But it's a job like no other, that's for sure. I mean, compared to the news helicopters and law enforcement, I mean, ours is definitely is complex, and especially at nighttime. So
That's dude. That, as I said, I'm very envious. Like, I've never myself have been on a helicopter. Like me and my wife, we went to Vegas a couple of years ago, and we wanted to get on a helicopter. We actually paid to do a helicopter tour to fly over the Grand Canyon. And for some reason, the day of, they abruptly canceled on us. So of course, I had the whole 2-hour tirade on the phone yelling at these people because my wife's crying because that's all she wanted to do the whole time we were in Vegas was to fly over the Grand Canyon, and they ended up canceling. And apparently that's something that company was very, very well known for, was canceling on people the day of. And they were like, we can get you scheduled for Wednesday. I'm like, we're here from Thursday till Sunday. That's not going to work for us, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah, those tour guys, one of the buddies that was with me a few years ago, he was working with us. He did tours out in Vegas, and it's a different mentality out there. They're all about making the buck, and the different weather requirements and stuff like that. And some of the stuff he was telling me, I'm like, yeah, I would never have gone in that, but if it's legal to fly, then they want you to fly, because every hour or every minute that you're turning a blade, costs money. So
yeah, it
is what it is.
I mean, of course, like, you don't hear of a lot of helicopter disasters. Like, I think that the one that I've known of the most, hearing about, was when Kobe died. And, right. The whole thing with that, it's like, I don't think I ever really fully found out what they said, what even went wrong. Like, there was so much, back and forth type stuff. It was, the company's fault, whatever. And I mean, he had a good pilot and, all that, but it's just weird that, it sucks.
It does. Yeah, that's all that stuff deals with VIP transport, and that's a totally different animal, But the thing is that they supposedly had practice or training in flying, in subpar weather conditions, and instrument training. That's something that the pilots in my company or the company I work for, we practice, on a regular basis. So for us to go into the clouds, not be able to see anything, that is what our chief pilot used to call it a non-event. You go up in the clouds, there's steps you follow to regain your situational awareness. You make certain calls and stuff like that, and you do an approach, you get back down. But I think, I'm not sure how much time the pilot had, but if the weather's less than good, you might want to reevaluate if you're going to take off or not. But I would want someone, if I wasn't flying, if you're going to go into the clouds, that had some really decent, instrument training. And unfortunately, that's kind of hard to come by a lot of times, especially with helicopter pilots. So we pride ourselves on flying in those inclement weather conditions. And it was hard for me at first, because when you're surrounded just by white all around you, it's like, what are you gonna do? But you start in a simulator, you practice that. Then you start, when the weather is nice, you do an approach that way, so you can see how everything is supposed to work out. So when the time comes and weather is bad, you're not afraid, and it just becomes natural to you. And we practice, at least 2 or 3 times a month on our stuff. So we're used to it, and I'm glad it's a tool that we have and that we can keep up on.
Awesome. And what we're going to do real quick for everybody watching live at home and watching on YouTube, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our pregame episode, and we're going to go ahead and start.
Before we go to the main episode,
what's that?
Breaking news.
What's that?
I had to take a bathroom.
Did you do
the gobble?
Yeah, you did the gobble. We're touching back to a story that we were talking about before. Before you came on, an interesting story I saw. When I was at the bathroom at our local mall. But what we're going to go ahead and do is finish up our pre-show, and we're going to roll right into our audio version, which will air on all of our major podcast networks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour podcast. Of course, I'm Ray. Matt's not here this week. The one and only Psycrotes is with us. Of course, I call him our artificial AI because no one ever sees him on camera because his vision is so fucked up. And then he always thinks he's on camera, but he can't see the camera. He's never on camera. And of course, we're live with Steve Hamm. Steve Hamm, actor, lifeguard, helicopter pilot. Of course, he joined us a little bit early on Facebook Live. And of course, everybody here on YouTube is also seeing it as our bonus content. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. And Steve, with everything that you've done, especially with being a lifeguard and a helicopter pilot, I was sitting there thinking, it's like, you're an actor, that they need to create a new Baywatch. And so pretty much what they're going to do is they create Baywatch. And it's a spinoff, but it's not like that crappy Baywatch Nights. Baywatch Nights suck. It's like Baywatch, but it's Baywatch SEALs. And, what it is it's Steve, and Steve is the helicopter pilot. And, he's kind of like the Coast Guard, and he takes, Mitch and, all the other, CJ and Laney. It's bad that I know all the characters' names from Baywatch, and he takes all of them and he just flies them around. And there's a car that fell off of a bridge. And they're like, oh man, these people need to be saved. So they all jump out of the helicopter, into the water, swim over, get the door open. And then they use that red buoy, they have the person hold on to it, and they just raise them up and just fly away with Mitch Buchanan just holding on to the person with that.
You had a lot of fun with this, right?
Yes, I did. And
you have put some thought into this for sure.
Explanation is the Burger King
And Steve, of course, with your lifeguarding stuff, how of course you talked a little bit on the pre-show about how you got into flying helicopter, you learning it in the military, and how did you get into life? You've done a little bit of everything. Like you were in the military, you flew a helicopter, you're a lifeguard. How was it lifeguarding? Like I mean, like were you a lifeguard at a pool, beach? Were you Coast Guard or?
No, this was a straight from military to a life flight type of environment. So I think for helicopter pilots, for military pilots, you end up doing one of two things. You either do life flight, or you do, like flying down the Gulf or something like that, or whatever you can find. But most of us do go into the life flight type of system, or just business basically. So starting out, it was strange because they do things definitely a little differently. I had when I went for my interview, actually, it was a 15-minute flight, and he wanted to see, if my claim of 3,000 hours was legit, which it was. But then he was going through the motions and having me go through the process, of how they take off from, a scene or a hospital pad, and this is a 2-engine aircraft I was flying now. I'm used to use single engine, so it goes a lot faster, and I wasn't used to that. So that's something I was have to get used to. And flying around, with other crew members other than another pilot, which was new to me too. So there's a whole bunch of new stuff there. And luckily, after my what they call the peer interview, where all these other lead pilots, are asking you questions left and right, and based on not so much your answers, but your demeanor and how you kind of conduct yourself, if it's someone they want to take on. And fortunately, they did. But yeah, it's something that most helicopter pilots get into, the life flight. And our company is really structured well. We had like a 2-week training period in the beginning, and flew with another pilot to make sure that I was doing stuff right. And once I thought I was good, they'd say, okay, fine, now you're on your own. And if I didn't feel right, then they would say, okay, we'll give you another week, because they want to make sure that I was comfortable doing the job. And of course, and if the crews were comfortable working with me as well, which they were. I mean, I think one day it just like something just snapped, triggered. I'm like, okay, now I got this. Now I understand what's going on. And I started just making all my own calls, doing all my own stuff. And the pilot just sat there like, okay. And that was it. And everyone has their own time when that happens, but it's a very unique job, and it's very rewarding, I have to say. Very.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. I don't know a lot of other people who have been able to do that. What would you say are probably some of the more like wilder things that you've seen, being a pilot of a helicopter? Like, I'm sure you've seen a lot, like from people probably. Have you had people jump off helicopters? Have you, seen have you seen anything crazy from like above, like you're flying over something and you just see like, stuff going crazy down below, or like, oh, what have you seen as a pilot that,
Are you talking about the military time or the civilian time now?
Either or. Like, I mean, just in general, like, I'm sure you've probably seen some cool things, or just wild stuff too. Yeah.
Well, there's some stuff in the military that I probably won't be talking about here.
Yeah.
But no, there's in the military side, there's some cool stuff. The scariest time though is when of course our job was to try to keep the enemy at bay while some of the friendly forces were trying to get back to a certain point, and you're getting shot at because the enemy's being stupid. So when you're flying around getting shot at, bullets don't react well with helicopters. So you just kind of, after a while, I wouldn't say get used to it, but it's your job. So you just learn how to develop the situation, and do what you can to get yourself out of there, but also help the ground force at the same time. So that's unique. There was a lot of times though, we will help when there's a wounded soldier, help the medevac come in. So we'll make sure the area is secure as they're approaching, and they come in real quick. They're on the ground, like probably less than 5 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. They pick the guy up, fly him away, and that's it. Then we escort them, back to the closest base and stuff. And there's a lot of adrenaline flowing, and a lot of, radios are all chattery and busy. And it just, you don't even realize how much time goes by because it all just seems to happen so quick, but it just becomes second nature after a while. But on the civilian side, I think responding to motor vehicle accidents is probably the most unique thing. And, it just, when you see the wrecks and just like, wow, what were they thinking,
Yeah.
And after, it's just, as many times as I've done it, it's still sometimes just surprises me what I've seen, and we just go in there and do what we got to do and stuff. And but there's some other stuff that I've transported people with gunshot wounds and stuff like that, and you get to kind of see it up close and personal, and it makes you think that how precious life really is, and you come home to your family, you just want to hug them and say, glad you guys are alive, see another day. So.
Now, with have you ever done any of the like over water type rescue type things? Like,
no.
I mean, that's always mind blowing too, is when, you have, it'll be like a Coast Guard helicopter or whatever it is, and you just have someone on a rope
That's gotta be
just holding on to somebody, and they're like literally extending up while the helicopter's flying in air. Like, I saw one of those guys, right near one of our main bridges here, down near where I live. They're putting in power lines, and they're putting up all these big like power towers over the water. And I was driving my truck one day, and I'm looking, I'm like, what the hell is that helicopter doing? And like, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And you look and you see it was a guy holding on to a rope ladder on the helicopter, and it was literally slowly flying him around until it got him to the perfect spot. And then he got off the rope ladder and got onto the platform for that. I'm like, man, that's insane.
He's earning his money,
You know,
that's
doing
it.
that, and it's amazing the things you can do. You know, with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the pilots that fly for the power line stuff. Those guys are really impressive to be able to fly that close, you know, and keep such control over the aircraft while the technician is doing what he's got to do. The other ones you're talking about are the Coast Guard pilots, or two. There was a couple of them in my company actually, and you know, it's just they're a different breed, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but you know, they're used to flying over water stuff, extended over water, and a bunch of other, you know, probably more complex emergency type situations than we get into. So I tend to learn a lot of stuff from them as well, you know, how they handle a certain situation and stuff, because it's always good to learn that kind of stuff. But the thing, other most impressive thing I've seen is the guys that fly in the aircraft, and they've got that powered saw below them, and they're cutting the branches away from the power lines.
Oh yeah,
that's impressive too.
And
that's crazy.
You being in the military, you know, you got to see a lot of cool places. Where do you think was probably the coolest place you got to go to when you were in the military? Just hands down.
Probably Germany before 9/11, I think. Actually, I had 2 tours over there, and it's just a gorgeous countryside. I mean, the people are really nice, actually. And, you know, you'd be amazed how many actually speak English as opposed to just German. So, yeah, but no, Germany was the nicest. After 9/11 kicked off, Germany became more of a, you know, a spot where you just, if you left the States, you go there real quick to get some gas, and then next you know, you're over, you know, in the big sandbox. So they were just a intermediate destination there, and so you really didn't get to see much. But yeah, prior to 9/11, definitely Germany was the best one that I had. I mean, there's some nice stateside stuff too, but you know, who else? You know, where else can you go when the government's paying for you to go and see a country like that? I've been to France once, you know, but I think that was about the extent of it, because after that, you know, it was more like 9/11 and everything just changed.
Wow. And Steve, of course, it's the Happy Hour podcast. Are you a drinker yourself?
I do partake on occasion, sure.
Okay. When you were in the military and you got to see a lot of places, what do you think, you know, going out wise, when you got free time, where would you say was probably one of the most over the top places you went out to when you were in the military? Was it Germany as well? Because I mean, they do a lot of like the Oktoberfest and all that, and they love, you know.
Yeah. Germany was definitely the best. I was married at the time, so I didn't really go out a whole lot. It was more drinking at home. But yeah, if you go out, you know, yeah, drinking beer is like second nature over there. I mean, kids are 16 drinking beer because they just are. Oh yeah, it starts early there. I think in a way that's kind of a good thing. You know, I kind of disagree with the American policy on that. You know, you start kids off a little bit early, and then they can appreciate the alcohol, which is actually like almost 3 times stronger, you know, than what the American beer is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
they learn to appreciate it early, so when it comes time when they're older, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
But for us, you know, we hold off until you're legally 21. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to go out and binge drink. Like, oh my God, I can drink now, and they just want to take shots and do this and do that.
Yeah.
And it's a recipe for disaster. You know, that's just my opinion. But yeah, no, getting a good beer in Germany is nice. You got it. It depends how strong you want it. I did Oktoberfest once. That was nice. But I mean, I'm not a huge drinker. I just, you know, every so often just to take the edge off, whatever else. But that's about it. So I'm kind of boring.
With Oktoberfest, that were those glass mugs as big as they look on TV? Like when they come out with those, I feel like that when you put that down on the table, it pretty much almost takes the legs off the table because of how big those things are.
They're big. They're very sturdy, and it's amazing how the waitresses can carry all those at one time to the tables and not spill anything. But you know, that's tradition. That's what they do. So
like when we had the beer pyramid.
Oh yeah,
we not spill it.
He was talking about in one of our previous episodes. We were talking about we're both professional wrestlers. We did pro wrestling for 20 years, and we went out to a gentleman's club one night, and they were doing a deal where they did 25-cent draft beers, and so 5 of us went up with like a 20 and was like, how much will this get us? And they're like, well, so they did the math, blah, blah, blah. So they slide us all those trays. So we're just sitting there just slamming beer.
Oh, yeah.
And, one person passed out in the car, the other person passed out in the bathroom, and we sit there and we build this big, gigantic 3-dimensional beer mid. I don't even know what the girls on the stage were thinking, because you just look over and you just see this, like, pretty much the Eiffel Tower of beer cups just sitting in the middle of this place. And it's just completely insane. But the thing is as much beer as we drank, it's probably only 3 of those mugs in Germany when they put those things down on the table. It's insane. And what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to get into our featured beer. Of course, we've been being the average Joes lately. Bud Light is our featured beer right now. So shout out to Bud Light. We've been being average Joes lately for the holidays and all that. So we're going to get into some more of our, local IPAs and all that stuff probably within the next week or two. So shout out to Bud Light. And then, of course, the Metallica whiskey is gone. Unfortunately, me and Matt finished the Blackened Metallica whiskey last week.
Blackened is the end.
Yeah, so there is no more. They faded to black. That's now gone. So what we are going to have now is Jack Daniel's Winter Jack hard cider. So I always like if we do gin or whiskey or something like that, coming off that is something a little bit more pleasant to drink. So shout out to Jack Daniel's Winter Jack. I'm pretty sure, once we post online that it's our feature, they'll probably reshare. They reshare almost everything that we post for them. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and do this, and this won't be half as bad as the blackened whiskey. Oh, man. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get into our games real quick. So we play a round of games with all of our guests. And Steve, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our name 3 game. So pretty much we're going to say name 3 of something, and then you just let us know what you think the answer is to that. So let me find where. Okay. So,
oh boy,
name 3 gifts for Christmas that you think that you can wrap that probably should not be wrapped.
That can be wrapped, that should not be wrapped. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Kind of like something you'll wrap it, but they can tell 100% what it is because it's wrapped.
One I'd say probably guitar.
Okay.
Let's see. The other one probably a bicycle.
That'd be a good. Yeah, that's a good one.
And I'd say probably an automobile.
I would say a telescope, a TV out of the box, and maybe a couch. What do you think, Psycrotes?
Yeah. Oh God, that is a good question. A bottle of liquor.
Bottle. Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Come on. A bong.
A bong. Okay.
I know I'm going in a different direction here, but a VCR. Not that anybody's getting a VCR.
Yeah. But imagine like a pet. Someone wraps a pet. Like, you get a dog for Christmas, and then all of a sudden it's just walking around with the wrap around it and all that. So here's the other one. Now, this is just, things like, let's say you have cherished possessions.
You got me a VCR. Yeah. What is this, 1993? What the fuck?
If there were to be a bad fire, name 3 things.
As opposed to a good fire.
Name 3 things that you would save in a fire before your family. Like, for example, me, like if a fire were to happen, like let's say you have a family you don't like and a fire breaks out. And you're just kind of like, okay, I hate my family. What's the first? I'm grabbing the porn. Okay, I need all of this porn. I'm grabbing all of this. Before I'm in my room, I'm grabbing all of this, and now I'm going to my family. So what are 3 things that would probably be within your close vicinity if you could grab it and run with it before you saved your family that you would grab before?
Well, I don't even the close vicinity would even matter at this point, but probably my set of golf clubs, my dog, unless you want to consider that part of the family. That's and that's a good question. Probably my favorite bottle of liquor, I guess.
Your favorite bottle of liquor? Okay.
The theme of the show.
Yeah.
I would say my collection of Psycrotes matches.
Okay.
DVD
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
VHS, of
Yeah.
course, 'cause
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah. You got those can't perish in the fire
No.
because God forbid if everybody out there who has no idea who the fuck Psycrotes is,
Yeah.
they can't see those cherished matches anywhere.
My CD collection
Okay.
and my luchador beer opener, just because.
I would say, as I said, you got to take the porn. The porn goes with you.
Why is the porn just not on the computer? That's
No,
my
well,
question.
I mean, that's the thing, but that some people like physical media. Like, that's the thing. It's
You
like,
like your
hey,
porn the old
yeah,
school
yeah,
way.
hey, I've used this 100 times. Like, this needs to go. Like, Betsy is coming with me. Like, that's so that the computer, because obviously if the computer doesn't go, the podcast can't happen.
That's true.
And I kind of agree with Steve. Like, probably the best bottle of liquor that we have in the house, and grab that and be like, all right, come on, guys, let's go. We need to get out of here. And then my wife just looks and goes, what are those DVD cases that you're in? Don't worry about that. The house is on fire. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Your house will burn down, but at least you'll be drunk.
Yes. You can just sit in the front yard and drink that. And Steve, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to what do you meme? Do you know what a meme is?
Sure.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold up a photo. And then what I want you to do is I want you to meme that photo. So this is the photo right there. So little girl, for anybody listening at home, it's the little girl smiling with the house on fire in the background.
The house is on fire.
I've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The meme would probably be, I told you I would do it.
I think mine would be when your wife realizes that you have porn that you would grab before you would save the rest of your family.
You're tying it all back around here.
Yeah. So now the house is going to burn down, but the family's not going to be inside. It's going to be just you.
My caption would be, this house has more heat than Jimmy Starr's.
Oh. And then what we do from that is we go on to incoherent. So pretty much incoherent, we're going to hold up a series of cards, and they're going to be in drunken lingo. So you're going to have to sound them out the best you can. There's a couple of hints on the back to try to figure out what the cards say. So this
Oh my God.
is the first card. Can you see that okay?
I can see it, yeah.
All right. So what do you think that is?
Buck naked?
What was it?
Well, it says Bud naked, but I'm thinking Buck naked.
Butt naked? Yes.
Yeah,
And the hints were nice buns and free pajamas. Those were the hints. All right. So some people do really good at this. Some people do really bad. So this is the next one right here.
The Ropac Thirst Hay. Huh. Ropac Thursday. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
One of the hints is a weekly meme. So you might see people post this on Facebook weekly.
Huh. Throwback Thursday.
Yes,
There you
Throwback
go.
Thursday. And the other hint was a weekly excuse to post an adorable pic of yourself as a kid.
Right, that is true.
And then here's this one right here.
Oh boy. May come Eric augur rate. Oh my God. That almost sounds German.
Well, you've been to Germany.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. May come Eric augur rate Aiken. No, I need a hint on that.
One of the hints is it's on a red hat.
On a red hat.
Yeah, no.
May come Eric.
Another hint is a vague promise used to distract people from realizing you have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh God. That's kind of me right now. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know that one. That's a
that one is Make America. You want to? Yeah.
Okay.
Make America Great Again.
Gotcha.
And then
here's
the last one right here. What would you say that one is?
Foot fetish.
Oh my! Right off the top. Foot. Wow. So the hints were tasty toes and an obsession with the least attractive part of the body. So, man.
And just because I got that quickly doesn't mean I have one, just to make that clear.
No, man, like honestly, like last week we had Mr. Skin on, and Mr. Skin, he just like literally like his mind was tied in
I
knots
think he might
when
have
I
got
showed
these
him those
quicker than
cards.
anybody.
Yeah, like you got some of these quicker than a lot of the people we've had on the show. That's great. That's the only other person I've seen that good at this game is my wife. Like she gets them like that. I'm sitting there looking like I would never figure that out if I didn't know what this was. And we end our Ode to Humanity
That was
segment.
like the 4th foot fetish reference on the show this week.
Yes, it definitely was. It definitely was because it got brought up during the pre-show as well. And we end our Ode to Humanity
I
segment
did used to wrestle barefoot. So,
with Cards Against Humanity. Do you know Cards Against Humanity?
I have heard of it. I think I actually played it once.
Okay, so what we do is we do it a little bit different on the show because there's so many options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the face card, and then I'm going to give you a number between 1 and 5 that you can choose, and that's going to randomly answer that card. However, you get one rebuttal if you don't like that answer for the answer of the card. So the card says, "Why can't I sleep at night?" So you get to pick 1 through 5. What do you want?
3.
3. All right. So 3. Why can't I sleep at night? Prancing. So are you satisfied with prancing? Or
No.
that doesn't make much sense.
So what other card would you like to choose? 3 is out.
It's number 5.
Number 5. All right. Let's see 5. All right. So why can't I sleep at night? Daddy's belt. So I would imagine some people probably can't sleep at night because of that. Some of the other ones were
Some of my thoughts can't sleep at night because of that.
past blue ribbon. I would imagine if you drink enough past blue ribbon.
Been there.
The light of a billion suns. And beefing
Billion
over.
suns. That's a lot of suns.
Yeah.
Even Lincoln Park only had 1,000 suns.
And beefing over turf. So those were some of the other options. And so now we have another one. And it pretty much is, this is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends.
That's the new Badflower album.
Not with a bang, but with a blank. 1 through 5.
Number 2.
Number 2. All right. So number 2. All right. So this is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with Jewish fraternities. Are you satisfied with Jew?
Yeah. I'll go with the rebuttal.
All right. What do you want to rebuttal with?
4.
4. All right. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a face full of horse cum.
I should have stuck with the first one.
And then the other options you could have chose were Child Protective Services, a falcon with a cap on its head, and a time travel paradox.
I think I'm going with the Falcon.
Yeah. So that's our Ode to Humanity segment. Steve, thank you for taking part in that. And of course, you mentioned with your that you had, your helicopter company. Would you mind saying what it is? Like putting a plug out for your company or anything like that?
It's not my company. It's
Okay.
just a company that I work for. Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't own a company.
And with your acting, what made you? Of course, your acting was, I would assume, after the military. What made you get into acting after you got out of the military? Was it something that you always just kind of wanted to do, or how did all that come about?
That is one of the $1 million questions. Yeah. I think it actually all started when I was still young. I was an only child, so I did a lot of pretend around the house and everything. And I think that's where kind of the acting stuff came from, because I would just kind of act out the scenes in my head and just play around the house and stuff, pretend I was talking to someone, whatever else. It probably sounds crazy, but when you're a kid and you're at home alone, and back in the day that was considered okay. Nowadays it's not, obviously. But I started back then, and then just before I retired, by about 6 months, I just got this on the weekend, this whim to say, hey, let me look into acting. I'm not sure where it came from.
Yeah.
I just got this thought. So I started perusing Google, and I found and I was living in at Fort Campbell at the time, so Nashville was like 45 minutes away, and there was just several acting schools in that area, which kind of surprised me. So I just chose one, and I went for a weekend cold read, which If anyone's not familiar with that, basically you're given a script that you've never seen before, and you just got to act it out the best way that you think it needs to be done. Unfortunately, all these scripts were from movies that pretty much everyone has seen, so it was kind of cool to play out those kind of, very well-known characters and stuff. So you go on stage with a scene partner, and you just, act it out. I mean, you got a script in front of you, so you can, read from it as much as you can, but you try to just kind of connect with the character as best you can, and just let the scene play out. And just doing that was it was very liberating for me. I was just like, this is so cool, where people are watching you and you're performing. And I never really thought of myself as a performer, but I guess I kind of am. And I said, yeah, I don't like to kind of pursue this, but I was about to retire, so I had to, one, of course, secure employment, post-military employment. I was in the process of moving, so that had to all take place first. So it was kind of put on the back burner for a while, but then I moved up to Ohio, settled in, and found some acting agents in the Cleveland area. And so contacted a few of them by email, and one said, hey, we have an open house tonight, why don't you come and stop on by? And so we went there, and they gave their spiel, to everyone, what they do and how they work. And I'm like, okay. Then they bring you back for a quick interview, and based on your answers, and your personality and this and that, they'll decide if they want to take you on as a client. And fortunately for me, they did. And and the rest is pretty much history. So I've been represented by an agent pretty much ever since 2014-ish, I guess, basically. So which for actors, that's a very tough hurdle to overcome, is to get representation. Because if they don't see anything in you, then they take a chance on you. So it's like, well, are you worth the chance? Are you gonna fulfill your end of the deal? As we will. And I think the older you get, you kind of learn the ropes and what you need to do and stuff. So they pretty much taught me all the basics, and then after that, it's kind of on you in a way. Actors are hustling every single day, for auditions, and you become an audition expert. You learn how to do all that stuff. And then since COVID hit and stuff, there's really very rarely in-person auditions anymore. Initially, they want self-tapes, and there's art to doing the self-tape. I mean, some people think it's great. You can be at home, doing your own self-tape. That's great. You can do it 5 million times until you think you get it right. But thing is, there is no such thing, as the perfect audition. I mean, there probably is in a way, but if you do it so many times, you're just never going to be satisfied. At least most actors aren't. So you do 3 takes. You kind of pick the best one, and then you send it in, and if they like you, they'll ask you, for a second run. And if that's the case, then at least you got your foot in the door. That's even a bigger step. So, but that's the way it is now, is self tapes and doing things by Zoom and everything. So, but it's all how you present yourself, and you got to be disciplined and take the ups with the downs, because there's no guarantee in the entertainment business.
Just like wrestling.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, the whole time you were talking, I was thinking pro wrestling. And, it's definitely because when we were younger, we were wrestling out matches in our living rooms and all that stuff. And then, we ended up getting into the industry. And, what you were talking about with, getting yourself out there, sending out, tapes or getting auditions and all that. Like, that's the whole thing of pro wrestling is all about. A lot of it is showing up. A lot of it is word of mouth, or just, sending as much of your content out as you possibly can, your best matches, your best promos, all that, just, to hope that you go out, one of your friends can be like, hey, have you heard of Chase Rawlings? Oh, no, I haven't. Well, you should probably, see this guy, I'll bring him up next time I come up. And, 90% of it is just showing up, because if someone's car breaks down and they can't make the show, they're going to be like, hey, do you have your gear? Yep, I have my gear. All right, you're on. First match, go. And I've always been amused, because I got to do a small little part in the Wrestler movie with Mickey Rourke. And, I was always kind of amused, because I'm used to, pro wrestling, a lot of stuff scripted. Like, we know what we're going to do, but a lot, I would say, man, like, probably 70% of pro wrestling is improv, because you got to always be in tune of what's going on. Because if
Unless
a
you're
fan,
working a lunar.
if a fan sits there and goes, you suck and you're a bad guy, you hear that instantly, your mother sucks, while you have a guy in a headlock. And it's like, so you need to entertain, but also go out and be athletic as well. Right. And you don't get a chance, live, you're out there in the ring, that if you mess up a line or something like that, you mess up in the match, you got to cover that as quick as you can. Like I've had it
Yeah.
before to where someone blew a spot that we had planned and they just stand there. And I'm like, all right. So I just kick them in the gun and put them in the headlock and be like, all right, you got lost, didn't you? Yep. All right.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. So,
Was it me?
you know, it may have been you, but no, I mean, that's the thing, like going out and just remembering lines and all that. Like I used to like when they would give me a promo, they would sit there and have this long thing of say all this. And I'm just kind of like, well, you know, I'm not sure if I can relay all this down. Like, you know, give me bullet points, give me bullet points and let me in my character get myself to where I need to be with, promoting the show, promoting the date, talking about my opponent, whatever it is. And I can get us there. And it's weird because actors are so unique with being able to absorb and remember all of this stuff with lines. And of course, with pro wrestling, there's a lot to knowing how to fall, knowing how to work the crowd, all that. But I guess that's how The Rock was able to, transfer over into acting so easily. Is It's like, everything you learn in pro wrestling, you can just sit there and just adapt that and learn that in the lines and what you have to do, as an actor as well. It's always just been so intriguing to me on how, it's so similar,
It is, it really
but
is.
so different all at the same time.
Like you said, you get one take.
Yeah.
So with the acting, do you have any favorite roles you've played?
Geez, favorite roles. I think so far the best one was on that Bruce Willis movie, Acts of Violence. It wasn't a speaking role. It was just, walking out the door and they escorting Cole Hauser, out of the house and stuff. But seeing how a bigger budget production, was done is pretty impressive, because you walk out of the house, and you got, all these camera people out there, and they're numbered 1 and 2, this and that. They got a drone overhead and this and that. And you got all the background people doing their stuff, and just seeing how it all unfolds is like, wow, that was impressive. But like you're saying, for going from wrestling to acting, there's a subtle difference, obviously, some subtleties that you don't know, but the entertaining part you pretty much have down. So just getting to the acting, cold is tough. Yeah. And you got to put yourself out there, and you can only do so much social media on a given day, and and you got to network, and it's like it's a part-time job basically. And so after a few years, you get kind of frustrated, like, how can I improve on this? What can I do? And a friend of mine that I knew on Twitter, she found Jimmy Starr from for his PR firm. And I was like, oh, okay. And I've seen him around before, on Twitter and stuff. I was like, well, you see how many followers he has. I'm like, well, I'm not going to bother this guy. I'm like, I'm just little old me, what the heck? Who's this guy? Get away from me. But so I got, the email, and I emailed them, and he responded back, and they told me everything. And I was like, okay. And, there's a cost involved, and it was reasonable. I mean, it was something that I could do, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. And he's like, there's no contract, it's month by month. And if at some point you don't like it, you can cancel and we're good. I'm like, okay. And, but, having someone else in your court, to promote you, is just this huge bonus, and he's got so many connections, because he works in LA, and Eileen works in New York. So they got both seaboards covered. And, luckily for them, now I can, do these podcasts, or whatever interviews they have lined up, get myself out there. And it's, the thing is, it's a marathon though, it's not a sprint. And anytime you think, wow, when's my big break going to come? When's it going to come? It's like, I don't even think about the big break, it's like, for me, it's about the acting. It's about, getting it right, getting the character right, and I think if you can do that, do a pretty, decent audition, that you feel comfortable with, in sending out. And after that, it's just a waiting game. We go on to the next thing, it's like, and it'll come in time. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't,
Yeah.
But it's fun, when you get an audition, because then you get to play someone else, and I work with a coach out in LA, and she's got her system that I use, and it's to get into the mindset of the character, read the script, read the sides over and over again, know what's going on. And then, the last thing I do is do the lines. Then I have an app that helps me learn the lines, and every actor has their own, method of how they do their line learning and everything else, but the key thing is to be able to get into that, in front of the camera, know your lines cold, and so you don't have to worry about thinking or searching for them, which depending on how much there are, it can be daunting. But once you do all that, then you can worry about playing the scene out. There's the moment before, there's the moment after. So there's all these intricacies that she teaches, and people don't realize that acting is not just memorizing lines, and being in front of the camera and saying what you are, because you can see how when a bad movie is made, and the actors are just like they're just there, as opposed to the ones that are really trying to make a difference. I mean, everyone starts out the same. I get it. I think though, after a while, that some they take it to a next level, and that's what my goal is, and not to worry about what comes on the other side. I mean, everybody wants the fame and fortune, but that's like the top 1%, and unless you're, I think, living in LA or New York, you probably won't see that. I don't know. I just do it for the enjoyment of it, and if something great comes out, fine. But it's the second hardest thing I've done in my life. I'll be honest with you.
And I agree that with pro wrestling, like it's literally probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, being associated with that business, I've gotten, I say this all the time, I've gotten so much from that business. I've met my wife through the business, everything I have today, my job, everything somehow has had a spark of it came to me through wrestling, whether it was a fan, this podcast. I was able to do a local TV show kind of with the same theme of what we're doing now for a good while. But, like what you said, like with the acting, like being able to go there, like if I show up to a show and I have a lot on my mind and I'm stressed, whatever, you're there, like, let's say me and Psycrotes are wrestling together, we're sitting there, we're laughing in the back, all that stuff. And then right before, we're talking our match out, having a good time. And then right before you walk out that curtain, the switch flips. Yep. You hear your music and that switch flips. And at that point, me and him are not who we are anymore. You get to basically go, and the second you walk out that curtain, you're somebody else. None of your problems exist. It's you and that crowd, and that's it. And I tell people all the time, being able to go out there and just having people in your hand, and just eating out of your hand the whole time, even if it's something that you're outside the ring, you grab some guy by his hair and you show his face to a little kid and you're like, you want to cheer him now, then you punch him in the side of the head and then throw him back in the ring or something like that. It's you controlling the people, it's you playing with their emotions. And it's unbelievable, being able to go out and do that. And then you come back, you kind of wear down a little bit, and then you're yourself. It's crazy because fans will approach us. And, I've had fans when I was a bad guy that were afraid to talk to me because they're like, oh, he's a jerk, he's a dick, blah, blah, blah. And, more often than not, I'd sit there and be like, you want me to sign that? Yeah. Well, how about this? You come over here, I'll sign this. But if you tell anybody I did this for free, I'm going to break your arm. And then I'll sign their stuff and give it back to them. Because at that point, they get the interaction. They're acknowledged. But also it's me staying in character of, okay, well, this kid's happy. But when he comes back next month or next week or whatever, he's going to boo my ass. And I'm still doing my job. And,
I would say in a way, acting is probably tougher because you're not getting the instant feedback. When you're in front of the crowd, you got the instant feedback. Acting, you don't know until you're on the screen and people are watching. You don't know if people are going to like it or not.
Yeah, that's 100%. And how? What do you feel with that? Like, have you ever sat there and like, especially with learning, the lines? Have you ever sat there and just there was a time when you were just kind of like, man, shit, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, get this rolled down. Like,
that's got to be one of the more challenging parts, just learning dialogue.
Oh man, yeah. There was I was doing during one of my lessons with my coach, and it was a role for a captain for an NCIS episode. I mean, I never actually like submitted for it. It was a practice lesson, but it was very dialogue heavy, and for me, I start writing all the lines down on paper. That's the way I get my line learning down, and I get to a point of where I'm not even looking at the script anymore. If I can just write the lines down from memory, that's kind of where my baseline is. Okay, now I've got that down. But then you got to take it a step further. Like, okay, now I need to I go into a room and I'll stand, and then I'll start saying the lines that way, and to a point of where I'm not thinking about what the next line is because it becomes natural conversation. That's the whole key.
Yeah.
is not to make dialogue sound like it's rehearsed. It's just natural conversation. But if there's a lot of lines, it takes a lot of time. And after a while, though, you just get good at doing that. But that's my process, the writing down, and then I have an app that I just got recently, actually, that helped me with a couple auditions previously. That once help you set the tone, and then you hear the dialogue that's coming to you, and you kind of know how to react to it. Because if you don't do that, then your lines aren't going to sound authentic at all. It's like because you got to listen. That's the whole thing. Acting is definitely half listening, and then I guess half reacting. And reacting in a way that's believable. So, and also being prepared. For especially auditions, you got to be prepared no matter what. And I did a post about this just I think this morning, where I saw an email. I check my emails pretty consistently throughout the day because you never know when something comes up, and it was time sensitive, and it was for I think like a fitness commercial or something like that, and they wanted pictures of people who are bodybuilders working out, and then some videos if you have that as well. And I was like, really? And I'm thinking, do I still have those? And luckily, I keep a photo album on my phone of stuff like that, so I was able to whip out 3 quick stills and and a few videos. So they were looking for certain weightlifting functions, like bench pressing or squatting or whatever else it was. So luckily I had some of that. So, I went to the site they wanted, filled it out, sent it in and everything. And, I may not hear back and I may not get booked, and that's fine, but it's one of those things where it's time sensitive, and I had the time to do it, and I had all the materials necessary and prepared to do it. And so that was the point of my post that I made, is like, look, and that just doesn't go just for actors, that's for anybody in life, just be prepared, and I think, with my EMS job, that ties right in there, because, when I come to work, there's certain things that I have to do to prepare before I take a flight. And, you're always ready to go. When the call comes in, it's like, you got 10 minutes to get everything done, and get that bird off the ground safely, And so I front load everything I can, at the start. That way I get the call, I check a few things like the weather, and, fill out some paperwork real quick, get the aircraft out, get it all started up, and we go, and it's muscle memory. You just do it. And, but the more you prepare, the better off it is. But that kind of follows me with most of the things I do in life, although my wife may disagree with that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, just like in this podcast, and, I've said it before, like, pro wrestling, there's a lot of quote unquote calling it on the fly. Like, there's a lot of guys who want to go in the back, and, I know Randy Savage was great for this. He would literally write his matches out in a notebook, step by step, what he was doing, what the other guy was doing. And like me, I would get so confused that I would be out there but of course they said that he was so good. Yeah, he was so good. He would remember it and call, like Steamboat. He guided Steamboat through that whole entire match.
And not make it look rehearsed.
And like, that's what we do with this. I feel like the authentic part of it is that, we do a little bit, we research some stuff, but more so I like going into it with kind of a clear mind. Like, hey, if we were to sit down and have a drink, and we were to meet for the first time, what will we talk about? Like, hey, what's up with, hey, you flew a helicopter, hey, this, that, another. And like, I feel like it's more authentic than us just trying to, constantly like, hey, trying to ask like some of the same stuff over and, over again. And, that's just not me. Like, I just like to go out there and just shoot from the hip and, just make it as real as possible, because that's what I know. I know that from wrestling. And that's why we do Facebook. Everybody's like, why do you guys do live every week? And I'm like, because I'm used to the live element. Okay. I know anything can go wrong live, but I'm also so used to being live in front of people, doing stuff live. It makes me my best when I do the stuff live, because I know, hey, I can't have it. Like, we were fighting the camera before we went live, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then eventually I was like, screw it, I'll just use the webcam, So yeah, I mean, that's just the way it works. But yeah, I mean, dude, I appreciate you coming on. We're gonna let you go ahead and get out of here pretty shortly. Steve, where can everybody find you? If anybody wants to find, any of your work, obviously IMDb, all of your stuff's up there acting wise. But, where can they find you if they want to reach out to you and, all that?
Well, official website is steveham2ms.org. Takes you to everything that I have up there, behind the scenes pics and my resume, and a little bit of my story. But as far as like for IMDb, make sure that you look at, Stephen P. Hamm, because there's like 5 or 6 Steve Hams. And once I found that out, I had to change it. Otherwise, I was getting someone else was getting credit for my work or vice versa. I'm like, well, that's not fair. So yeah, so I found that out real quick. But no, yeah, steveham.org is where everything is at, where you can find me for that. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. And yeah, it's it's surreal. I'm telling you, this whole entire process, and now I'm actually learning to fly an airplane now too. So I'm adding
nice
repertoire. It is, believe it or not, it's actually, I think, harder than the helicopter. Although airplane pilots would probably disagree with that, because they're like, well, learning to hover is hard. I'm like, well, yeah, it does. It takes time. Yeah. But an airplane is designed to fly, but there's just so much more that you have to do to get it there, I think. Because with helicopters, it kind of almost takes care of itself in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for me to say that, as opposed to someone else, but yeah, so I'm adding that as well. And my wife's like, oh, great, here we go again. So, but yeah, she always makes fun of me, especially with the acting stuff. It's, I think like some spouses, like, well, so I'll tell her, hey, I had an audition. She goes, oh, great. And the first thing she'll say is, does it pay? And she'll know within a second with my reaction. She goes, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And, so, but, sometimes they do pay, and that's great, but you'll learn not to ask about the pay up front. I mean, I'm not going to ask about that, especially, at my level. If I was more like maybe A-lister, I mean, obviously if you're a union actor, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. And yeah, so I just continue to do what I do. And, I am who I am. And I think, now that I'm 50, I definitely, know what kind of roles I would like, what kind of projects I would turn down and stuff like that. And I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I do have a self-sustaining job, so which does help, and that pays the bills. I don't consider acting a hobby. It's definitely another part-time job at this point. There's a lot involved, a lot of things behind the scenes people don't know or don't understand, and it's called show business for a reason. The business part is half of it, and there's just so much that needs to get done. So
yeah,
but it's fun. I mean, once it stops becoming fun, that's when you need to stop. So
yeah, and that's how it was with pro wrestling with myself, and of course I got to do this, and a lot of people don't understand what pro wrestling, like as you said, the wrestling business. A lot of people forget the business part of it. A lot of fans are like, oh well, blah blah blah. This, and it's like you don't understand the business look of this, and like, for example, with this podcast, one thing I learned with pro wrestling is that you need to make something look presentable. Like we always have presentable graphics. We always have presentable, then that way when someone sees it, they go, oh man, right. This looks presentable. I should check this out. And, there's been so many times, so many wrestling companies I would go to and I would do their show and they'd have 15 people in the crowd. And then I'd sit there and I'd be like, all right, well, whatever, we're just going to do all simple shit tonight, whatever. But you'd sit there and you would look at their flyer and it would just be shit. And I'm just kind of like, okay, well, this is what you were giving out to people. Like, this doesn't look presentable. You have like guys who are like $1.90 on the flyer instead of having like these big powerhouse shirtless guys that are going to attract women that are going to come in, or like these guys who look like wrestlers. Yeah. On your flyer. So, everybody is a worker in some way. You need to know how to work people and sell yourself to people. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, promotion is key. And just I learned, especially for social media, that pictures tell 1,000 words. So I always associate some sort of picture or graphic with a post of mine. And that usually initially draws people into it. Like, oh, what's this about? Then you can add your narrative to that, and there's a lady out in California named Heidi Dean. She's like the social media guru, but I took her course and she teaches you how to deal with all the social media platforms. So I'm no expert by any means, but I use it to my advantage as best I can. I don't try to mislead anybody by anything. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And and that's it. And you either like me or you don't. And if you don't, it's either you will one day or you won't, and that's fine by me too. I mean, I can't please everybody, and I know that, and that's fine, and but I stay away from politics and religion. That's
one thing we won't touch with the show. I guess I'll be like, we'll talk about anything. I don't care. You can talk about ripping people's faces off. I don't care. But that's one thing. Some of the stuff we talked about on the pre-show. But once it makes it to politics, we're just kind of like, hey, because they sway so many different ways. And
there's a
even
million other podcasts to talk about.
yeah, and even what you said with networking, like, we're going into our second year doing this, and I now, I don't even really need to do much work to find guests. And everybody always asks, they're like, well, how do you get your guests? I'm like, because I send out, I know how to sell myself. Like, I know how to send out an email, how to word things that, blah, blah, blah. Thankfully I got hooked up with Jimmy and Eileen, and, they sent you our way. And, we have a couple of PR people for the adult film stars that we have on, and just, in general, along with all that, like heading into 2022, we literally had dates mapped out for Eileen and Jimmy, a date mapped out for this PR person, that PR person. And, it's the kind of thing that people come on the show and they're like, hey, these guys were cool. They weren't they didn't offend me in any way. They didn't shit on me in any way. And it's like, yeah, I had a good time. And, the games are fun too. So, that's just the whole thing. It's just networking, getting yourself out there, and, you need to want it. Like, if you don't sit there and
that's the thing. Yeah. You have got to want it, and, take everything in stride. There can be a lot of lulls, but you just got to keep pushing forward, and I keep congratulating other, actors out there that are booking stuff, left and right, because right place and the right time for them, and that's fine. Because as soon as you get mad at someone else for booking and you don't, then, there's an ego problem there as far as I'm concerned. So maybe early on I was kind of like that, but I've learned, that's not the way. So you just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually, people are going to recognize your name or your face, like, oh yeah, and let's check this guy out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a daily grind, and
yeah,
you just gotta do it. So
I keep doing it. And what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So what we're going to do is next week, we will be right back here, of course, again on Facebook Live, same time next Friday, 6:30 for the pre-show. Then we will be live at 7:00 p.m. Eastern. Our special guest is Wendy Stewart Kaplan. She will be joining us. Of course, she's also represented by Jimmy Starr and Eileen Shapiro as well. And, we will be right here. And of course, anybody listening at home on iHeart, Spotify, wherever else you find your podcast, thank you for tuning into the Happy Hour podcast. And of course, shout out to everybody joining us live who have watched live or will be watching us on Facebook and YouTube. This will conclude our episode. Steve, thank you for hanging out with us. And this will wrap our audio episode. So we will see you guys next week. Real quick for the live audience, we're just going to do one quick thing. We just normally keep on rolling along. Would you just be able to say this is, just do a plug and say this is Steve Hamm and this is the Happy Hour podcast?
This is Steve Hamm and this is the Happy Hour podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We run that on our commercial breaks on the audio episode and all that.
Ooh, I was worried about that for a second. I'm just kidding.
All right, man. Appreciate you being on the show. Thank you. Have a great holiday. Send us your address, and
okay.
I'll shoot you a shirt as a thank you for being on the show.
I will do that. Yeah. Happy holidays to you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you. All right. See ya.
See ya. Take care.